good afternoon, El Paso. It's great to be here as part of TEDxElPaso. As I mentioned, my name is Bill Robertson. I'm an associate professor in education and also the associate provost for academic technologies at the University of Texas at El Paso. And I'm here to talk to you today about Dr. Skateboard's action science and how it's defying borders. So I'm known as Dr. Skateboard, and people always, kind of chuckle when they hear that, and they'll say, why are you Dr. Skateboard, or what's up with the Dr. Skateboard thing, And so I wanted to break it down for you a little bit today and talk to you a bit about it. So I'll start with the skateboard. So I started skateboarding when I was 13 years old. I was in middle school. I lived in Richmond, Virginia, and I started to do it because it was fun and it was something I could do with my friends. As I progressed in the sport, I began to compete as an amateur, and this allowed me to travel. I went up and down the East Coast and even went out to California. In the 1980s, I turned professional and continued to do contests. I did demonstrations, went around the country, and even got a chance to travel abroad. In the early 90s, in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, I did shows for Got Milk and did all sorts of very interesting venues. And even today, I continue to do demonstrations in schools. I'm a skateboarder. I've been a skateboarder now for 37 years. It's part of who I am. It's how I see the world. It's my passion. That's the skateboard. Well, let's take a look at the other part, the doctor. Well, you might think, hey, you've been skateboarding for 37 years now. You got to be a doctor in it, Well, it goes a little further than that, and I'd like to shed a little light on that as well. So back when I was in middle school, I had some other goals I wanted as well. One of the goals I set in middle school, being the youngest in my family, was to go to high school and graduate from high school like my brothers and sister did. When I got out of high school, I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. Maybe I can set another goal, and I'd like to go to college and graduate from college, and I achieved that goal. I set a goal to get a master's degree and become a teacher, and I achieved those goals and became a teacher of science at the high school level and middle school level. And then I thought, maybe one day it'd be cool to be a doctor, to get a PhD. And really no one in my circle of friends had a PhD. In fact, one of my skateboarding buddies, I remember, I told him I was going to go get my doctorate, and he looked at me and he said, dude, I don't know anybody with a PhD. And it was true. So, with a lot of hard work, a lot of support, family and friends, I was able to achieve that. And currently I'm a professor here at the University of Texas at El Paso, where I've been for the last 10 years. So that's Dr. Skateboard, or as I like to say, Dr. Skateboard. But what's interesting about this is the skateboarding really helped to fuel my pursuits in education. In fact, the things that made me successful in skateboarding, practice, creativity, discipline, tenacity, persistence, and setting goals, also helped me in my education. These were exactly the same. In fact, I achieved this success first through skateboarding before I ever achieved that success in my education. So my skateboarding, in a sense, became a vehicle for me to pursue my higher education. So you might take a look at this and think, this is probably a moment where things can go really good or really bad. This is a trick called a handstand finger flip. And when you do this trick, what you do is you ride on your hands on your skateboard, you take it, you flip the board with your hands, you leap through the air, you land back on your board, and you ride away. It's a very dangerous trick, a very interesting and captivating trick to make, and a great learning opportunity. They say learning happens when you go to areas of high risk and high ambiguity. That's what learning's all about. There's a lot of learning that's going on right there. Kinesthetic, visual, auditory, it's all happening. But it wasn't just enough to learn how to do this. It took something else to get it so that you could actually master it. And it took a long time to not be able to just do it once, but to be able to do it over and over again in a variety of situations. And to master something takes a long time. But that made me start to think about the importance of mastery. You know, the longer I'm in education, the more I think it's less about what you know and about the things you can master. Because if you can master something, anything, you know what it takes to get there. You know the commitment, the strength of character, the blood, sweat, and tears that you have to go through to achieve something like that. And I think that if you can master something, you can take that sensation, that feeling, and apply it to other aspects of your life. Whether you're trying to master, I don't know, skateboarding or BMX, or maybe it's something like art or the guitar. It could be a language like Spanish. It could be science or math. But if you have that ability to achieve mastery in something, often I think that that's a better characteristic to having success in other areas of your life. So the longer I'm thinking about education, it's less about the things you know, it's about the things you can master. So I think mastery plays a big part in the approach to education. Speaking of mastery, one of the things you have to master in skateboarding is you have to master the ollie. And the ollie is really the way that you can fly on your skateboard, like you see in this image behind me. The ollie is also a great representation of the physics of flight, because really with the ollie you have to, overcome gravity with lift, and you have to overcome friction or drag with thrust. So you have to use these forces of physics, if you will, to fly through the air. And it's the same for a skateboarder who's flying through the air at a local park as it is for an airplane. So the physics are actually the same thing. And this idea that there was a lot of science in these sports really started us to think about the idea of calling it something like action science. But of course we had to put our own spin on it and call it action science, right? Because it had the action of action sports, it had the science of Newton's laws, forces, motion, simple machines. It was a way of kind of bringing this out to middle school students, to teachers, to lots of people as a way of showing sports like skateboarding and inherently uncovering the science that was within it. So we put it all together. We called it Dr. Skateboard's Action Science. We went out and shot a lot of video here in El Paso. We created activities for teachers and students to use in the classroom, and we created this middle school physical science curriculum supplement that was being used in schools. We translated it, it was in English, we also translated it into Spanish, Ciencia de Acción, and now it's being used all over El Paso, all across the United States, in Canada, Mexico, and into South America. The other thing we did is we took this show on the road. It's one thing to kind of see it and kind of hear about it, but it's another thing to actually physically meet some of these people. And one of the things we did in Action Science is we didn't use just any rider, we used top professional riders, top amateur riders, people who the students, the kids could see like, wow, that's a real deal, that's an incredible trick, that's real action, it was authentic in that regard. So we went out to the schools and we did experiments. We calculated acceleration and velocities and all sorts of things that we could do using ramps and different athletes competing or doing demonstrations at the schools and community sites. We also took our show indoors. Now last spring we did a show at the Don Haskins Center here in El Paso for over 8,000 middle school students. We brought them to campus at UTEP to get them to feel like, this is your campus. It's a chance for you to start putting college as a goal in your life. And along the way, there are going to be some pretty cool things that you might encounter here at UTEP, and learning is a fun thing. And you can see, I think, from these images that it was kind of inspiring and captivating. It was cool action, but also a great way of showing there's a lot of science in these activities that people do every day. But you might ask, so what's your motivation? Really, why do you do this? The money? Notoriety? Well, it's a lot more simple than that. And it sort of comes true or comes clear with a story. So I mentioned I'm a skateboarder. I like to go skateboarding. It's something I do all the time. I like to go skateboarding here in El Paso because we have a tremendous number of parks, many of them concrete, which is sort of like the top level for skateboarders. And we have a number of them all over the city. And one of my favorite parks to go frequent is one in the lower valley called Carolina Skate Park. It's a great skate park. Lots of people come there, and it's a lot of fun to go there. So usually I go there on Saturday mornings. It's a little easier on Saturday mornings because there's a little less traffic to get through, and it's a great time to get together with friends and learn from the people there. So, I get there to the skate park, I put on my pads, I put on my helmet, and I start riding. And one of the things I notice is I see a lot of students, or not so much students, young people, kind of riding up to me, and they're kind of like riding by me and kind of eyeballing me the whole time, like checking me out, And I'm like, I'm in the lower valley. I'm like, what's up, I got my pads on, like I'm here to skate, And so they're checking me out, and finally one of them comes up to me, and he screeches to a halt in front of me, and he stops and he says, "You're Dr. Skateboard, aren't you?" And I said, yeah, I'm Dr. Skateboard. He goes, "Oh yeah, you came to our school like this, with all this attitude, right?" And I said, "Really, what school do you go to?" And he told me the name of the school, and I thought for a minute and said, I was thinking to myself, I don't remember going there to do a demonstration or a presentation. So I turned to him and I said, I know that school, but I don't think I've ever gone there to do a demo. And he said, "No, you didn't come to our school to do a demo. You came in your video like this." Again, with all this attitude, "You came in your video," right? And then his buddy comes riding up, screeches to a halt next to me, and he goes, "Yeah, and we're learning about forces in motion." Right? So there it was. That was the moment that I had envisioned in my mind when I was trying to put together Dr. Skateboard's Action Science. It was to appeal to people probably a lot like me, who weren't really that into school originally, but were into other sports like skateboarding, And it changed that day. We weren't skateboarders out having a good time on a Saturday in El Paso. We were scientists riding around in a field laboratory talking about acceleration, motion, Newton's laws, simple machines. This isn't a toy, right? It's a machine. And I'm not just a skateboarder, I'm a scientist when I ride my board. So that was a pretty amazing thing to see, and I felt really blessed to actually experience it. Because, it is about helping skateboarders to see themselves as scientists in parks all across the world. It's about mentoring young people to help them to succeed. It's about helping boys and girls to set goals and work to achieve them. It's about everyone working together to help people to find their dreams and to pursue them. For me, it's about defying borders, and I think that's why Dr. Skateboard's Action Science is here today, because it's about breaking things down. It's about upsetting stereotypes. It's about just putting barriers or putting away barriers where there might have been. It's about building bridges, not erecting borders, is really what it is. To me, it's an opportunity to use your gifts to inspire others and help them along the way. Really, that's what Action Science is all about, defying borders. My name's Bill. Thanks. What's that?